Some people inherit wealth. Some inherit land. Some inherit opportunities. She inherited an old library card. It was faded. The corners were torn, and her name had almost disappeared. But to her, that little piece of paper was worth more than gold, because it was the only thing standing between her and the dream everyone believed she should forget. Before we continue, if stories like this move you, take a second to subscribe. Inspiring wisdom stories. Because you never know, the right story at the right moment might become the reason someone never gives up. Now, let's begin. Her name was Ananya. She lived in a tiny rented room with her mother. Every evening as children played outside, Ananya walked to the town library. Not because she loved the silence, but because she couldn't afford a single book. She dreamed of clearing the civil services exam and becoming a government officer. People smiled politely whenever she said it, not because they believed her, but because they didn't want to hurt her feelings. Every morning, Ananya worked at a stationery shop. She arranged notebooks, packed school bags, and watched children buy expensive guidebooks she could never afford. Sometimes she quietly opened one, read a page, and put it back before anyone noticed. Every evening, she walked nearly 4 kilometers to the public library. She entered exactly at 5 o'clock, chose the thickest book on the shelf, and sat in the same wooden chair by the window. There was only one problem. Library members could borrow just one book at a time. The exam demanded dozens. History, economics, law, current affairs, subjects she could never own all at once. So she made a rule for herself. Whatever she couldn't take home, she would take home anyway, in her own handwriting. She began copying entire chapters by hand before returning each book. Page after page, formula after formula. Some nights her fingers ached so badly she couldn't hold the pen straight. But she didn't stop, because every notebook she filled felt like a book she finally owned. Every evening at exactly 8 o'clock, the librarian rang a small brass bell. Library is closing. Everyone packed up. Everyone except Ananya. She would look at the unfinished page in front of her and quietly close her notebook anyway. One rainy evening, the elderly librarian noticed her wiping away tears before she left. He didn't ask questions. The next evening, as everyone else walked out, he came over and said softly, "You can stay another hour." "But the library closes at 8. He smiled. "The library closes, dreams don't." From that day on, he quietly left one reading lamp switched on, just for her. He never announced it, never expected thanks. He simply waited, every night, until she was done. Months became years. Her handwritten notebooks filled an entire shelf. She couldn't afford coaching classes, so the library became her classroom. Books became her teachers. Silence became her only companion. Whenever she felt like giving up, she looked at the old library card in her bag. It reminded her of one simple thing. Someone had once believed she belonged there. Finally, exam day arrived. She walked into the hall carrying nothing but her confidence, 2 pens, and a transparent pouch. Weeks later, the results came. She wasn't selected. People weren't surprised. Some even said, "At least you tried." Those 4 words hurt more than the failure itself. At least you tried, as if trying was where her story was supposed to end. That night, she almost believed them. She sat alone in the library long after closing, staring at the shelves. Thousands of books, thousands of chances she'd already used and still come up short. For the first time, she let herself wonder if everyone else had been right. Then she looked down and saw the old library card sitting on the table beside her notebook. She picked it up, turned it over once in her hands, and whispered, "I didn't come this far to stop after one result." The next morning, she opened her notebook again. This time, she studied differently. Not just harder, but smarter. She solved previous year's papers. She found her weak subjects and attacked them first. She learned from every mistake instead of just repeating it. The librarian watched quietly from his desk. Sometimes he'd leave a bookmark tucked inside a book before she arrived. On it, just 2 handwritten words. Keep going. That was enough. Months later, the final results were announced. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through the list. She checked once, twice, 3 times. Then she froze. Her name was there. She had done it. For a moment, the world went completely silent. No cheering, no music. Just tears rolling down her face. Years of walking, copying, waiting, failing, and starting again had finally answered one question. Was the dream worth it? Yes. Every page she copied, every kilometer she walked, every night she stayed back under one small lamp. It had all led to this. A few months later, a white government vehicle stopped outside the same library. People looked up curiously as a young officer stepped out. It was Ananya. She wasn't there to give a speech. She wasn't there for photographs. She walked in carrying several large boxes. The librarian looked at her confused. She smiled. "Sir, these are for the children." The boxes were filled with hundreds of new books. Every subject, every dream, every possibility a library card could open. Then she reached into her bag, took out her old, faded library card, and placed it gently on his desk. "I don't need this anymore." The old man picked it up, turned it over once, and smiled. Then he slid it back across the desk toward her. "No," he said. "Keep it." She looked puzzled. He said, "This card didn't just borrow books. It created an officer." Today, that old library card hangs in a small frame on Ananya's study wall. Not because it has any monetary value, but because it reminds her that success doesn't begin with money. It begins with refusing to stop. History is full of people who started with almost nothing. No coaching, no resources, no one who believed in them at first. Sometimes all it takes is one library card, one person willing to leave a lamp on for you, and the courage to turn one more page than you did yesterday. Because the impossible often becomes possible for those who refuse to close the book on their dreams.